to chat about that. Malik and I have not recorded an episode since May of 2024.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, like 8 months ago. Shortly after we recorded that episode, we moved to a new location. As you can see, this is our beautiful little dark academia little lounge room. We decorated it very nicely. But yeah, we moved, and that was a lot of work. And we did not have a space like dedicated to do the podcast. And my office upstairs is still like kind of a work in progress, and the background's just not really cute. And so we wanted to wait till this room was ready, and this was not all ready until like November.
Mm-hmm.
And then the holidays happened, and we didn't want to record an episode over the holidays because we were busy. Anyway, long story long, we are back. Today, we thought we would go through, let me pull up my list. We thought we would go through all of the movies that were released in 2024 that we watched. We did this with 2023, and we really liked going through the list and talking about the movies. So we have 34 movies to talk about, but we're just going to go through. I believe this is in release order because I just like went on a list of like every movie that was released.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is in release order. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But the first movie is kind of a downer of a movie that we're going to start with. It's Society of the Snow, and this was Netflix's version or Netflix's take on the true story of the South American soccer or football team who crashed in the Andes Mountains. And this was this in like the 60s or 70s? I can't remember like what
Something like that, yeah.
time period it was in. But this is a true story. They made a movie about this like in the 90s or 2000s that I saw. But this version of this story that Netflix did, I thought was way better than the other movie. It really, really showcased the like horrors that these people had to go through, because this is like a true story. This soccer team, or football, they call it football. This football team is traveling from a place in South America, and they were going to, I think they were going to like Chile, I think. And their plane crashes in the middle of the Andes Mountains, and like a bunch of them die on impact. And then they're there for like a really long time. And it just showcases like the horrors that they went through, just like them trying to survive. And basically, what happened is that they ended up running out of food and they had to cannibalize each other. So I'm sure you've heard of this story before. But I think this movie just showcased this story a lot better than the other movie that I saw. And it was just really well done. All of the actors were South American, or at least Latino. I just think the cinematography was fantastic. Like the makeup that they did on them, because they had to make them look like they were really like frozen in the snow. I just think everything about the film was really fantastic, and it just showcased this awful tragedy in a way that was like very respectful. And I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. No, very well done. Very much, don't go in expecting warm and fuzzy feelings, but a great story about just survival and the resilience and the miracle that these guys were found alive at all.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So this was a really great movie. Obviously, it's a little sad note to start on.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this movie, and I highly recommend you watching it. And I just think, yeah, it was a very respectful adaptation. Not that the other movie was disrespectful at all, because the other movie was fine. But it was just a very respectful adaptation, and some of the actual survivors like made little cameos in the movie as well. I think one of them played the dad of like himself, if that makes sense. Because at the end, like they all get rescued and they're in the hospital, and the one person's dad like shows up at the hospital, and that person was the actual like guy who like he was playing the dad of like he was basically playing his own father, which was interesting.
Yeah, and they also recreated some of the scenes where some of the photos that they took from the actual crash encampment site, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah, because they had a camera with them, and yeah, they recreated some of those photos. But it was a fantastic film, but very sad. Next film was Night Swim. This movie, I don't remember where we watched this movie on. It was some streaming service. This movie was awful.
It wasn't the worst we've seen, but
it was about this family like who moved into this house, and basically like the pool was like haunted, and if you went in it, like I don't even remember. It was so weird.
There was like a portal or like a black hole to the ghosts in the pool, and like some spirits were trying to like pull him into the deep end.
It was
It
very
was
weird.
weird. Yeah.
It was weird. Not my favorite movie. It was basically like a haunted pool. And it was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Okay, this next movie, Mean Girls. Mean Girls, the musical movie. I went and saw this with my friend Megan because my friend Megan and I actually saw the Mean Girls musical when it premiered in DC a couple of years ago. So it premiered in DC, then it was picked up to go to Broadway. I don't know if it's still on Broadway. I don't think it's still on Broadway anymore. It might be. I'm not sure. But we went and saw the Mean Girls movie musical in the theater. A lot of people were mad about this movie because it was not marketed that it was the musical. The only thing that gave away that it was a musical was that it had a little music note in the title of the movie when they showed the trailer, but then also in the one trailer, like, you see Renee Rapp like singing. So I'm like, I don't know. People thought it was like a remake of the movie, which it was not a remake. It is the musical. But for a musical movie adaptation, I thought it was very good. I was a little disappointed because they cut out a couple of the songs. I understand that musicals can be a lot longer than movies can, but they did cut out a couple of songs that I was a little annoyed with. But they did keep like the big ticket songs in there, and I thought it was very good. The actress who played Katie, the main character, I thought she was fine, but I wish they would have casted somebody who was more of a singer versus an actress. But I think she did a good job. I think she did a nice job. But the star standout of the film was Renee Rapp as Regina George. So if you like musicals, if you're a fan of Mean Girls, I think you would enjoy it. It definitely, like, even with the musical version that I saw, it's definitely has all the elements of the original movie just in musical form. So if you're a fan of like Mean Girls in general, I think you would like the musical. So I really enjoyed it. Malik did not see it. We were gonna watch it at
I
some
was
point, but we
out of
did not.
town. Yeah.
You were out of town, yes. But I liked it. The next one was Spaceman. I didn't see this, so why don't you take it away? Obviously, because I have nothing to add.
Yeah, so this one was a Netflix film, came out early 2024, and Adam Sandler's in it, playing a very serious role. He's,
Hmm.
I believe, he's playing the role of a Ukrainian astronaut on, this kind of experimental vessel that's going out into deep space to find these things, and it follows him, alone in this spacecraft, and he's sending video messages back to Earth, and along the way, he is visited by this alien life form, which I won't reveal what it is. That just is kind of hanging out in this vessel with him. It's not dangerous or anything, at least we don't think it is. And it goes through, this alien life form becomes the only company that Adam Sandler's character has. And so it goes through him becoming comfortable with this life form, then opening up to it and sharing all these things. Because the life form is like, I've been observing humans and I've been observing you, kind of like, what's your story? What makes you tick? Kind of a deal. And it's very emotional. It gets into like Adam Sandler's like relationship and family past and things like that. A little bit about the situation they're in and like why they're going there in the first place. I don't reveal too much. And the alien life form, it's very sad
Oh, so it's
towards
not
the
like a
end.
happy
No, it's
space
very
movie?
very it's
Very
just
serious movie?
yeah, it is very serious, kind of a slow burn, very kind of esoteric in a way, dealing with concepts of what makes you tick, what makes people do things, why they do them the way they do them, kind of getting Adam Sandler to open up to this creature, and then when it turns out certain things that he did in his past weren't so great, the creature kind of calls him on it, and kind of dealing with that and come to terms.
Interesting.
It was very 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 interesting, and there
Hmm.
is it comes full circle in the end. He good main character, he learns from his failures and things like that, and returns to Earth and starts picking up the video messages back and kind of addressing some things.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Cool. I saw that movie like, yeah, as like a preview or whatever on Netflix, but I didn't watch it. But I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I'd watch it again. It's very cool.
I like Adam Sandler. The only other like
Yeah.
serious movie I saw him in was Uncut Gems, which is just like roller coaster of a film.
Yeah. And like, again, like Adam Sandler playing a serious role, like really, like he plays a role very, very well.
Yeah, he was
And there's
great in the other one.
yeah, and there's some kind of cheeky moments, that acknowledge the absurdity of the situation. This astronaut alone in the middle of nowhere. Then there's this creature, and then the creature's trying to figure out some of the technology and just kind of fumbling over it too. So there's kind of charming, absurd moments. So it's kind of self-aware in that aspect too. It's not all doom and gloom and heavy. It's very good, very balanced.
The next one was No Way Up. This movie, people are in a plane crash. The plane crashes in the middle of the ocean. As the plane is descending into the ocean, it is starting to fill up from the bottom, or I think it's the front of the plane, to the top. It's basically like the way it crashed in the water. There's like an air pocket, and there, only a couple of people survived, and they're like, okay, well, let's like swim out of through a window or whatever, and we can go up to the surface and try to be rescued. Nope, they can't because there's sharks. There's a school, I guess, of great white sharks. Were they great? I think they were great white sharks.
I'm not sure what kind of shark they were supposed
I
to be.
think they were
Generic, scary
generic
shark.
scary shark. And so things ensue, and some of them make it out alive. It was a good bad movie. It wasn't terribly made. Like I don't think it was like a shit movie, but like
Oh yeah, I mean,
it was entertaining. It's one of those like disaster movies that you just watch. That's you know
turn your brain off. Kind
yeah,
of campy disaster,
not
actiony.
not the greatest film ever, but it wasn't horrible. I don't think I would like watch it again. Wasn't my favorite of the year, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, entertaining.
Next one is Dune Part 2. Now Malik has never seen any of the Dune
None of
movies.
them.
I think Dune Part 1 came out during like COVID. I think it was like 2021 or something, or
Yeah.
2022 came out, and I watched it. Was released on like HBO or whatever, Max, is that what it's called now? It was released on there, and so I saw the first one, and it took me like 3 days to watch it because it's so long. And then Dune Part 2 came out, and I'm like, well, I might as well watch it. I'm already invested in these films. It took me 3 days to watch this again. This second one was like way less interesting than the first one. I'm not even gonna try to explain what Dune is because I'm pretty sure like the majority of people who are like listening to this like know what Dune is. But the sequel I thought was way more boring than the first one. I really just don't really understand like what the hell's going on in these movies. The plot is kind of convoluted. Now, I personal these are my opinions. Now I know some people who like love these movies and think they're like the greatest thing ever. Not my favorite. There was one sequence in this movie that was so good. I literally found it on YouTube and like showed it to Malik because it was so good. It was like some battle royale. Again, I have no idea the context because a lot of this movie is like I don't know what the hell's going on. But basically, there's this group of bald dudes called the Harkonnens, and the only reason I know what that is because Katya from Tracy and Katya's podcast is like Katya's like obsessed with these movies, so he talks about them all the time. So basically, the Harkonnen, they're doing this like kind of like gladiator fight inside of this like Colosseum esque sort of place. And the entire sequence is in black and white. And it's very dramatic. And it's just kind of like a gladiator fight. And that was like the most interesting part of the film. Because I think it was just the way it was filmed was cool, and it was all black and white. And it was a lot of action. A lot of the movie is just sort of people talking and doing weird shit. So I'm not really a big fan of the Dune movies, but I'm already invested in them. I'm 2 movies deep in this, and
Wow.
I'm gonna watch the next one, and maybe Malik, I'll make him watch them all when they're all out. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just not the target audience for Dune. I appreciate it. I think the acting is really good. I think the cinematography, I think the costumes and the makeup are fantastic. I just don't really know what's going on, and it's just not really one of my favorite films. Um but I feel like you might be the target audience for this. You might watch that movie and you'll either be like, "Wow, this is terrible," or you'll be like, "Man, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life." So I'm interested to know what you think of these movies when you do watch them.
Yeah, I'll have to start from the beginning.
You have
Yeah.
to. Okay, the next one was Damsel. Malik also did not see this movie. I watched this with my sister. So this was a Netflix movie that starred Millie Bobby Brown, who's most famous for playing Eleven on Stranger Things. And so this movie, she's basically this girl in this, I don't know if it's a kingdom or whatever, but she basically gets like married off to this guy who lives in this like more wealthy kingdom so that they can do like trade or whatever. And basically, what happens, and this is all like in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. Basically, what happens is that the kingdom that she gets sold off to basically sacrifices all of the brides to this dragon. And so she gets pushed down this like ravine and she ends up in like this dragon pit, and it's a whole movie is her like trying to escape the pit and escape from the dragon. But then there's lots of other like twists and things in the movie, but that's like the main plot, and that was all in the trailer, which I was like a little like, why are you revealing like everything about this movie? But there was enough other plot lines in the film and twists and reveals that made me like less annoyed that was like revealed like in the trailer. So I loved it. I think I love Millie Bobby Brown. I think she's a fantastic actress. Um, really good. Just a really good story in general. I don't want to ruin it because there was like a big twist in the movie. But she just does a really good job in the film. Um, and the dragon was really cool too. You like dragons, so I think you would like the dragon in the movie. Just really good
Rooting for the
without
dragon.
yeah, you love dragons. So without revealing too much, it's just a really good story. A really good like feminist energy. Ladies like doing their thing and like kicking ass.
Slay.
Yeah, it was a really good movie. So
Literally.
without like revealing too much, I really enjoyed it. Last in the row of movies that I saw without Malik is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So I watched the what was it, the Ghostbusters something dimension or whatever that was, the other one that came out recently. I watched that on a plane recently, and then I watched the second one on the way like back. It's a sequel to the other Ghostbusters movie that recently came out. Since Malik didn't see it, I won't go into it too much. But out of the two like newer Ghostbusters movies, I think the first one was better. I think the climax and the ending of this movie, I thought it was kind of anticlimactic, to be honest. Still good, still entertaining. I do enjoy them, but out of the two like newer Ghostbusters movies that came out, I thought the first one was much better. This one was a little bit anticlimactic, I think. Still a good movie. I think if you're a fan of the Ghostbusters franchise, I think the new movies are really good. They don't try to erase anything, and they're really good, entertaining action like movies. So I do think they're definitely movies you should watch if you like Ghostbusters, but I thought Frozen Empire wasn't as good as the first one. The next one was Immaculate. This movie was wild.
Yeah, 3 words. That poor girl.
Yeah, this one stars Sydney Sweeney. So if you know who Sydney Sweeney is, she's from Euphoria. She's also in a bunch of other things, but she plays a nun, American nun, who gets sent to a convent. Not sent to, she like volunteers to go live at this convent in Italy. Um, and like weird shit starts happening, and basically she ends up getting pregnant, but it's an immaculate conception, hence the title of the movie.
There's spooky shit going on.
Yeah, a lot of spooky shit going on. I don't want to ruin it, but yeah, she gets up getting pregnant by some means. The twist of why she ends up getting pregnant is like the big twist in the movie, so like I won't ruin it. But Sydney Sweeney, I think she's a fantastic actress. I think people kind of don't take her seriously because she's sort of like that blonde bombshell kind of it girl right now in Hollywood, and I think a lot of
Mm.
people don't take her seriously as an actress. But I think she's a really good actress. Even on Euphoria, like besides Zendaya, because Zendaya is like the best character and the best actress on that show. Besides Zendaya, I think Sydney Sweeney's she's like one of the best actresses on that show. And I've seen other things that Sydney Sweeney's been in, but if this is any indication of like her going on and doing like different types of acting jobs, I think people should pay attention to that. I thought this movie was really good. It's a good spook movie. It's not too scary, but it's not too boring. There was plenty of action. It was funny at moments, and you're rooting for her, but in the end, it's kind of I don't want to ruin it, but like it was a really good watch. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it gets a bit gory to the end if you're
Yeah.
sensitive to that. Yeah, and the ending too, it's like bittersweet because it's like
Hmm.
you want to be like good for her, but also like, god damn, she went through shit.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It was
oh
a
my
great
god.
film. It was a really
Mhm.
great film. Really enjoyed it, to be honest. So Immaculate, awesome movie. Next one was Late Night with the Devil, which I loved this movie, but I'm gonna let you talk about this movie because that was one of your favorites of the year.
Yeah, this was one of my top favorites that we watched of the year of 2024. Late Night with the Devil. It's going, following the story of a late night talk show host, and his ratings are
It's
falling.
like in the
You know,
'60s or '70s, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're around that era, and they're trying to think of what to do to bring viewership back. And so they're like, oh, we're going to bring these mediums, and we're going to try to not summon, but like get these people on the show to get this girl possessed by a demon, basically on live television. Ooh, and they
Yeah, there's
have
like this little girl's like possessed by a demon, and he's like trying to they do an exorcism like on air, and
Mhm.
then he has like other supernaturally kind of people come on, and it's on Halloween. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the one medium guy, he's I guess a farce hunter. He's kind of, the skeptic. He's like, "Oh, it's
he thinks everything's fake.
yeah." He's like, "Oh, it's the lighting. Oh, you pulled the chair on a string." That kind of stuff. And then the other guy, he's starting off kind of farcy, but then actual spooky stuff starts to happen to him. And then they bring in the girl and her caretaker essentially to begin the possession and the exorcism, and it gets wild.
Yeah.
But definitely some of the highlights of it were how it was shot.
Yeah.
Because certain points of the movie you're watching are, the characters running around doing their thing, and then at certain points it switches to you as the viewer of the television show, and when it
Hmm.
does that, it switched to, the more square aspect ratio. And so
Yeah.
you really had to pay attention to that as you were watching, as to kind of like, okay, what point of view are they putting me in right now?
Hmm.
Basically, it was very cool. It was
Yeah,
very well done.
it was really, really well done. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The main actor, I cannot remember his name, but he played a character in Ant-Man. He's like one of Ant-Man's like weird the friends that he has that were all like ex-cons. He's like the one that was like Russian or whatever. That's where I knew the actor from. But I think he was really good in the movie. I haven't seen too
Mhm.
many things that actor's been in, but I thought he was really good, and I loved that it was like taking place in the '60s, '70s era. Um, and yeah, I loved them pulling you in and out of like as a viewer of the movie, and then you're a viewer of the talk show.
Mhm.
Um, it was really well done. It's all done in like one scene, like in one setting. Um, you're in the
So,
studio where they're filming the
yeah.
talk show. They don't really go into any other than like some flashbacks, but it's really taking place in one setting, which sometimes can make movies boring, but there was enough going on that it made it like interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really, really liked it. The next one was Godzilla X Kong colon the New Empire. I'll let you talk about this movie because you have a lot of you yeah, you have a lot to say about these Godzilla Kong movies. So I'm just gonna
I,
let you talk
I
about it.
know a lot of people, they love these movies, so I'm not going to rat on them. Some people are the guilty pleasure. I have some guilty pleasure movies too, but man, I'm trying to not to be too mean. I don't know. I grew up on like old school, Japanese Godzilla and stuff like that, and so seeing him in the new effects and everything is really cool. And like the kind of progression of the monster verse, whatever they're calling it, Godzilla 2014 and Kong Skull Island as themselves were super cool, and they were building into the bigger monsterverse. And then
Kong Skull Island was amazing.
yeah, like very well
That
done.
movie is
And
good.
yeah, like hinting at the more monsters. I'm like, oh, cool. So we're gonna get like standalone movies for like Ghidra and Rodan, and no, no, they just mash them all together, and the way they mash them together and continue to mash them together continues to disappoint me. They are not gonna get me to care about those damn monkeys. Oh my god, the
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. All like how many of these movies have they made? This is like the fifth movie in this
I
like
can't even keep track.
series. The Godzilla, or King Kong, they're trying to just like make you give a shit about King Kong, and we just personally don't care about King Kong. We like Godzilla more.
Nuclear Lizard would definitely beat the gorilla.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
like
then like they barely like the much that they show Godzilla is like not enough.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then man, they really get into like the Hollow Earth thing, and then like the weird like spiritual connections and stuff, and like
it's very strange.
I feel like they're trying to do more with it than they need to, and it
Yeah.
it becomes like cringe, so cringy, campy, where it's like it's painful. I remember just one of the not refer to this movie specifically, but it was Godzilla King of Monsters, I think the one that came out in like 2019 or something with Ghidorah, and it was the scene. This is the only one I saw. Well, only one of the newer ones where they're all together. I saw in the theaters, and it was a scene. Spoilers: the movie's been out for a while. Godzilla dies one of the bajillion times she dies, and he's like in the ocean, and then Mothra comes over and starts like flapping her wings real slow, and the moth dust goes into the water, and there's like this crazy song. This dude behind me just starts cracking up. And I was like, thank God I'm not the only one in here who thinks this is ridiculous. And
Yeah.
then they keep trying to bring in different monsters. Like there was that weird, like, I don't even remember because this is how poorly they handled the new monsters. They're like Leviathan sea serpent. lady goddess
Don't
of
even remember that.
destruction,
Don't even
Tiamat,
remember that
whatever
at
her
all.
name was, the big sea serpent, and they're making a big deal. And I was like, okay, cool. They're definitely gonna like have King Kong and Godzilla team up to beat her, right? No, she shows up and like Godzilla
Nothing
blasts
happens.
her, and that's the end of this cool new monster. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's the simple formula. It's worked for decades. Dude, I
Yeah.
could go on, but
Yeah, you could go on for a while.
it's so just
They're bad. We don't like
yeah.
them, but we watch them. We hate watch them. We hate watch them. We're gonna move on because you're getting
Yeah.
heated. The next movie was Civil War. This was an A24 movie. A24 is a production studio. They make some of the greatest films of all time. Anytime there's a new A24 movie, I'm like, we gotta watch it. We gotta watch it. I want to do like an A24 marathon because there's a bunch of them that I haven't seen yet. But Civil War, you kind of understood what was happening a little bit more. It takes it's in modern times.
It's like
Like, how do you explain it?
dystopian secession of multiple states and regions of the United States.
Are like fighting each other.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Civil War,
Yeah.
I guess. So there's like military factions like in the street fighting and shooting and stuff. And basically it follows this team of, I guess they're like news people slash photographers who go, whose job it is to like go around and photograph the the military presence and all of that. So it's kind of like when I think they work for like Getty or AP Images or something in the movie. But it's like when those companies send people overseas to like Afghanistan or whatever to photograph, the US soldiers and what they're dealing with over there. So it's basically like those people but in the United States photographing this like civil war that's going on. And it follows this group of photographers and stuff. And then one of them is like a young girl who's kind of getting into photography. She's just starting out her career as a photographer. And there's a lot of things, and I don't want to ruin it because it was a very good film. But there's a lot of things that happen in the movie that I'm like, oh wow, okay, they just did that, or oh, I didn't see that coming. There were a lot of it kept you on your toes. And it's kind of a somber, bittersweet ending to the film, but it was really, really well done. And I can't really talk much about it without like spoiling everything in it. But it was really cool. But I was a little confused on like exactly what was going on in a sense. But yeah, it's basically it's like a civil war that's being broken out in the United States, and the government is basically completely like defunct.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit confusing for me to wrap my head around it, but I enjoyed the film a lot.
Yeah. And like it doesn't shy away from the brutality because
Mm-mm.
that's kind of the point it's trying to make. Also, I didn't mind that they didn't spend a lot of time on the exposition of the backstory because
No, I didn't
that
mind that
like
either.
it kind of had the viewer a little confused as to what was going on. So kind of in the shoes of the characters you're following
Mm-hmm.
around. Then also again like that like the main point was the characters you're following around and just kind of experience the chaos and confusion that they are, through their lens, pun intended.
Yeah.
So it was, kind of by design, I think, but very, I think, unique kind of a movie. Very cool. Again, very well done.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. The next one was Abigail. This was one of both of our favorite movies. So the kind of twist of the movie is revealed in the trailer, so I will give it away. Basically, there's this kind of ragtag group of people who are tasked with kidnapping the daughter of a very wealthy man, and this takes place in modern times. And basically, they're kidnapping her for like ransom because this man's like a billionaire or whatever. And so they bring the girl back to this like mansion or whatever, and the main guy who's like heading the operation is like, okay, we're gonna you guys just have to stay here overnight with the little girl, and by the morning comes, like, we'll have like the ransom or whatever, and you guys will get a cut of the ransom because he's gonna pay to get his daughter back. Turns out that the little girl Abigail is actually a vampire, and that's revealed in the trailer, so again, no spoilers. Now, I would have kind of preferred if they didn't reveal that. However, I understand that they have to reveal that to get people interested in seeing the movie, because if they didn't reveal that, I would have been like, this movie's boring as hell. Like, there's
Yeah. Why would we watch
there's
the
like a
kidnapping
gimmick to
movie?
it.
Yeah. Like.
But there was enough in the movie that was kind of like Damsel. There was enough in the movie that was another twist
Mhm.
and other things going on that kept it interesting. And I wasn't mad about them revealing that in the trailer, just like Damsel. but it's a horror comedy movie, which are some of my
Yeah.
favorite movies are horror comedies because it's not too scary. Like it's if you're afraid of horror movies, you don't like horror movies, like I think you would enjoy this movie because it's very comical
Hmm.
and there's just a lot of deaths in the movie, but the way the people die is very comical. It's also very much of like the people get what's coming to them kind of thing.
Yeah, like you don't feel bad for these people at all.
No. There's like one character or two that you like that you're supposed to like, but everyone who
Yeah.
like everyone gets what's coming to them kind of thing. And just the little girl who played Abigail, she did such a good job. And it was just a funny, good movie. Like I really enjoyed the movie. It was probably one of my favorites too of the year.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites. It's again very self-aware. It just goes balls to the wall with
Mhm.
how crazy it is and kind of how there's some campy scenes. Like the Abigail character running around and just
She's like a
being.
ballerina too, so she's like
Yeah,
doing ballet while she's like killing these people, and she's like covered in blood. It's so stupid,
yeah,
but it's like it's very. Well, you're right. It's very self aware of
yeah,
how ridiculous it is. It kind of reminded me of the movie Megan.
yeah. It's kind of reminiscent of
Yeah,
that, where it's like this kind of crazy premise, and they go all the way with it. it's
yeah.
you know.
It's a really good movie, even if you're
Mhm,
not a fan of horror. I think you would enjoy it because it's
mhm.
very good. The next one was Tarot. I did not watch this, so I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah. I watched it and then it was getting kind of slow, so it didn't keep my attention all the way through. However, I will say, man, without revealing too much, really cool creature designs. Definitely
So
credit
there's
where
like a
credit's
monster
due.
in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So long story short, there's this group of I think they were in college or something. They're all hanging around, and their one friend is like, "Oh, I can do tarot readings." And they're like, "Oh, do it, do it, do it." And they like find this old cursed tarot set. So they're like, "Do it, do it." Well, of course, she does her tarot readings, and whatever their like main card in the reading was, it's like the major arcana, like death, devil, joker, stuff like that. Those cards then become the creatures that chase down these people, and it's kind of a mystery
Oh,
because they're
sounds
trying to figure
interesting.
out. I should watch it again because
Yeah, I'd
it's,
watch it.
but it's like it's again, it's kind of like it's not like there's a little suspense here and there towards the beginning when you're trying to figure out what's going on. Then when you do figure out what's going on, it's like okay, but also it's again kind of like it's not intentionally comical, but it's kind of a little campy. It's not really. I wouldn't say it's really scary, but some of the things they did with the different creatures based off the different tarot cards were pretty cool and very unique. Definitely, I think it was. I don't know if it's a legit card or not. The Joker one or the like the kind of clown creature. Like there was some really cool stuff they did with that one, and then of course the devil and death were very on the nose. But they're
So
trying to
basically, like the cards are coming to life.
yeah, and
Okay,
it's about the friends trying
interesting.
to figure out what happened, and they find out they like find the person who found the tarot deck or like cursed it or something like that. And it's like, oh,
It
you shouldn't be
sounds
messing with that.
interesting.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll watch it. The next one was I saw the TV Glow. You watched the majority of this movie, and then I realized that he had started watching it, and I actually wanted to see this movie. It's another A24. I think it's A24. I believe it was.
Yeah.
And so he, was halfway through it, and so we ended up rewinding it and watching it together. It's kind of complicated to explain.
I think it's very artistic,
Yeah.
which is very cool. But the main premise, I think the main premise of the movie is kind of, finding yourself and self identity and things like that. But it follows two characters, like middle school, high school,
They
kind
start
of
off in middle
awkward.
school and then it's kind of like time jump and then goes into high school.
Yeah, but awkward youth, and they kind of, having family issues and they bond over this
TV
TV
show
show called,
called The Pink Opaque.
yeah.
Very strange.
And
It's
then
kind of like a campy 90s show
like
where these two
supernatural kind of
girls
show.
are like fighting monsters and stuff. So they bond over this television show, and then the one girl, the one girl, of the two main characters, the one girl ends up going missing, and so the guy, went years without seeing her, and then the TV show, the same day she went missing, the TV show got canceled, and then later in a couple years later she comes back and she basically says that she's, and I guess we're ruining the movie, but like she basically says that they are the characters in the movie or are in the TV show, and that they're in like the reality that they're in is actually a fake reality that the villain of the TV show like put them in. And so you can kind of watch the movie in two views. You can watch it as if she's really telling the truth, and the characters that you're seeing are really these people in the TV show, or you can watch it as that's not the truth
And she's crazy.
in that she's crazy. And then there's also a very it's subtle, but it's it's not super in your face, but it's very a subtle thing. And the writer and the director and everything have confirmed this and discussed this many times in interviews. But the main character is actually trans. Well, not they're
Alluding to it
they're
that
alluding that this main character wants to transition to female. And so there's a lot of underlying things,
the color use,
color used. There's a
some of the
flash.
outfits.
Yeah, there's a
He tries on a
flashback of
dress.
the two characters, and he's wearing a dress. And then they go out into this football field, and then it transitions, no pun intended, it transitions into the characters in the TV show, and they're wearing the same outfits. So he's wearing the dress that the character is wearing. So
Mhm.
you can kind of look at it in the lens of, wait, they actually are these characters, and they're living in this alternate reality, or he's using the character in the show as a way to express his femininity and his life as a woman. You can kind of see it as that
Mhm.
way.
And there's a theme too throughout the movie where he has this mysterious illness that gets
Hmm.
worse and worse and worse as he gets older, and it's kind of basically confirmed that this is him
He's not
not
living the life he should be.
yeah not coming out of the closet, essentially not expressing his identity or exploring his identity, and it's
And it's
eating
eating,
away at
literally
him.
eating away. And
Yeah,
then I guess we're gonna ruin the movie because you can't really, I
yeah.
can't really talk about this movie without like spoiling it. But at the end of the movie, he like rips his chest open, and there's this pink light, the pink opaque,
Hmm.
um, this pink light inside of him, which also the pink can reference a female
Hmm.
woman, and that this pink light has been living inside of him his whole life. And so that's sort of the woman inside of him that he didn't let come through, but it's always been inside of him. So
Hmm.
it's a, if you just watch the movie and you don't really understand it and you don't really like dig into it, you can kind of just be like, wow, that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But if you go into it kind of understanding that this is sort of an underlying transgender story and like this experience of him being trans, it's a really beautiful film. But
Hmm.
then there's also many elements of this that you could be like, wow, that girl was crazy, or he's crazy, or wow, it is true. And the one part the girl says like, oh, you have to bury yourself alive, and then we will reemerge like as the characters that are
We'll
in,
go
like basically
back to
she
the
comes, yeah,
universe.
go back into
Like,
the other universe,
whoa.
but the way that you have to go back into that universe is to bury yourself alive. And he's like, well, I'm not gonna like kill myself. So it's like, would he actually, so is he actually this character that's living in a different reality, or is he just using that character as a way to express himself? It's so
Yeah.
interesting, and they don't really explain it. It's very much up to you as the audience to
Hmm.
decide whether or not that's true. But yeah, I know we like ruin the whole movie, but it's very complicated to explain.
Yeah, but having those trans themes
Hmm.
very much adds a significant part to the film. And again, that
Yeah,
was confirmed by the writers and directors
yeah.
in that too.
It's a very good movie. It's there's this one scene at the end where he's like screaming,
Oh
and
yeah,
I think about that a lot because it was
yeah.
the actor was very good, but it was very kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
disturbing. It was a really good movie.
Hmm.
Next was Furiosa: A Mad Max Saga. I kind of watched this movie with you, but I don't really like Mad Max, so I'll let you take it over because that's
Yeah.
like your favorite franchise.
Yeah. Well, the old ones for sure, and like the late like Fury Road was awesome. This one I don't remember too much of the story because I don't really watch these latest ones for the story as much. Full disclosure, but it's a fun, crazy ass Mad Max film. It kind of went into the well, it was the backstory of Furiosa, which was cool. I mean, Furiosa is a badass character, and they went from her, as a kid, basically being kidnapped by this one of the roving gangs and kind of surviving in that role, and then trying to become a war rig driver to free people and get out of that situation. And there's a lot of other stuff that crazy action and stuff like that I won't get into. It's Mad Max, they're all killing each other, and there's crazy cars that are getting beat up and they're shooting each other. It's but it's really cool. The cinematography is cool. It's fun. The outfits are, I love the
Yeah,
freaking outfits and just the designs of like the crazy vehicles and that stuff. That stuff. I mean, just either the post
that's like
apocalyptic
the
wastelander. kind of stuff. It's super cool.
Yeah, that's like the only part of the new Mad Max. I've never seen the original Mad Max movies, but I did not really like Mad Max Fury Road, so I had no interest in seeing this movie. But I do love the costumes and the makeup, though that's in the set and stuff. But I think the plot of these movies is like so stupid. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
not the
like
target audience for it.
there's not really a plot.
I think that's why I don't really like them because there's no plot.
Yeah, and it's like watching Furiosa also is somewhat of a bummer because it's like the prequel to Fury Road, and I mean I'll spoil it. She tries to go to the green place with the wives. Well, obviously, the green place is like desolate and a
That's
swamp.
why I hated
But
that movie because like the whole point of the Mad Max was like, let's go to this oasis, and then they get there and it's like not there's no oasis, and then the whole movie was like for nothing.
yeah,
That's why I didn't like it.
yeah, and then Furiosa, well, she comes from this canyon where there was plants and stuff, and she's trying to get basically trying to escape and get back to that. And then, long story short, the end of the movie ends with her freeing the wives so they can flee to the green place, which is the beginning and then the whole story of Fury Road. But
Yeah,
you're watching Furiosa, assuming that you've seen Fury Road,
that
that
it's
there
all
is no green
bullshit.
place.
Yeah,
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 it's kind of a bummer.
yeah,
And I mean, these movies, apart from the name, have no connection with the old Mel Gibson Mad Max
yeah.
movies. I mean, it kind of hint at like, oh, he's like a legend or something like that. It's like, I guess it's kind of, I guess it could be a legend in their world. They never really even expand on it.
Next one was Under Paris, another shark movie. This one was actually terrible.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a bunch of sharks that are in the main what it was the canal in Paris
Yeah, for the Olympics.
for the Olympics, and a bunch of sharks end up in the canal, and it's really stupid and convoluted, and it's a fun movie to watch just like if you're interested in just like campy movies, but it's so convoluted, it's really stupid. Nothing of it makes any sense. It was entertaining.
Another turn your brain off
Yeah.
kind of sharks eat people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But none of it made any damn sense. The other movie
No.
with the people in the plane at least like was somewhat realistic. This is just so stupid. Like the sharks were like hyper intelligent or some shit. Like it was really stupid. It made no sense.
And yeah, the shark was trying to find like like a new breeding place, but
Yeah, it
then
was really stupid.
there's like a billion sharks via parthenogenesis, and
It's stupid. It's convoluted as
yeah.
heck. Next movie was The Watchers, which is one of M. Night
Ooh.
Shyamalan's newer films.
He's
And
getting back in the swing of things. His
yeah,
latest films have been really good.
yeah, I really like M. Night Shyamalan films. There's a couple that are horrible.
Yep.
What's that one that's shit?
The Happening.
The Happening is the worst fucking movie I've ever seen in my life. But The Watchers is really, really cool. We don't want to give away the twist because I will say that the trailer did not give away the twist, and we had a feeling
The
what the monster
thumbnail.
was,
Yeah.
and we figured out what the monster was, but it stars Dakota Fanning, and basically she ends up in the forest, and it makes sense. It's not just like she's in the forest. She's like driving somewhere and she ends up in the forest, and she can't like get out of the forest. It's like kind of like supernatural. And she's like, what the hell is going on? And these people, she sees these people and they're like, girl, you got to come with us, like get in this house, this little house that's there, because like they're coming or whatever. So basically there's a group of people that are stuck in this like house in the middle of the forest, and there's creatures outside and they're watching them, and then the front of the house is just a giant glass, like one way glass mirror that the creatures can see them but they can't see the creatures kind of thing. And then there's lots of twists of why the creatures are there, what the creatures are, how they're going to escape the creatures, how they're going to get back to the real world, and like the implications of like if the creatures come out, like what's going to happen. And I don't want to give away too much because I do think it was a very well done movie. It was probably one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Yeah.
But you really like this, was one of your favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, it was super cool because it's set in the modern times, and they kind of talk about without revealing too much. There's kind of like the modern technology twist of it with the dude we kind of only see glimpses of, and then they also actually talk a lot about like the lore of these creatures, which was surprising and refreshing and really cool.
Yeah, the lore was really good.
Yeah, so very well done. And then at the very end, I mean, typical Shyamalan. There's kind of a fake ending and another twist. When
Yeah.
she makes it out. Alone? Question mark.
It was good.
Yeah, it was
I
very
liked it
good.
a
Yeah,
lot. If you like M. Night Shyamalan, if you like sci-fi
creatures.
creature movies, it was really good. The next movie on the list is A Quiet Place Day One. This was one of my favorite movies of the year. This is, I guess, the third installment of the Quiet Place series. So if you don't know what the Quiet Place movies are, they were written, I guess they were written and directed and produced by John Krasinski, who played Jim.
Jim Halpert.
Jim Halpert on The Office. That's probably where you would all know him from. And the first two movies were more so about the in the Quiet Place universe. Basically, there's these creatures who came down from the earth, or no, came down to earth. And they're called death angels, and they're these like creepy little creatures, and they kill you if you make noise. So that's what's called a quiet place, because you have to be quiet. And so this movie does not have John Krasinski or any of the other characters in it, because this is the origin, I guess. And so it's A Quiet Place Day One because it takes place on the day that the creatures came down. And so it stars Lupita Nyong'o, who is one of my favorite actresses. She is literally so amazing. And she is this young girl in New York City, and she's in hospice. She's dying. She has cancer. And she ends up going to New York City. I guess the rehab takes them to the city, and while they're in the city, the monsters come down. And she has a cat with her who's like a therapy animal. And the cat's name is Frodo, which I thought was so freaking cute. And so basically, a bunch of people die, and she's like running around the city, and she's like, what the hell is going on? And then we come to this character who's played by Joseph Quinn, who is most famous for playing Eddie Munson on Stranger Things. And we just rewatched season 4, so yeah. we love Stranger Things, and I love Joseph Quinn. I loved him as Eddie, so I was happy that he was in another movie. So he's there in the city. He's a lawyer. He's British, because Joseph Quinn's British in real life, but he plays a British person. And he's like in law school, or he's like a young lawyer. And she finds him in like an alley or whatever, and it's them two kind of navigating the city together. And then they realize that a lot of people are moving towards the port in New York, because they're going to get on like a boat, and they're going to like go and travel away from like the city, because the city's like be infested. I mean, everywhere in the world is infested with these creatures, but they're basically like, let's go and get off the island, kind of thing. So it's them like traveling around, and you learn about her life, you learn about him, and it's just them navigating this situation with the creatures and stuff. I really, really liked this. I thought this was better than the first two movies. And that might have just been because I love Lupita Nyong'o so much, and I love everything that she's been in. Um, so maybe I'm biased just because I really like Lupita, and I like Joseph Quinn too. But I just like origins, and I think that's kind of what was like missing from the other movies, is that like there was a mystery aspect to like what's going on, and you come into the other movies like with the world already established. And they kind of have like a day one flashback in the second movie. They showcase like they have a flashback of like the John Krasinski and his like daughter and his son together when the monsters crash. So you kind of get that, a little bit of taste of that. But this was like the whole movie was that. But I really liked this, and I liked the different setting. And it was more of like more action, I think, than the other movies.
Yeah, just more interesting because you're in the city, so there's a lot of different scenery, and seeing how the monsters and people navigate the city was cool, and the crowds dealing with the chaos. Again, more interesting is the best way I can put it, because in the first couple, it's cool seeing how the family deals with it, but then it's kind of like, okay, family's dealing with it, there's gonna be a crisis, the family's gonna deal with it. Whereas in this one, there's a lot more moving parts.
Yeah, I just thought it was a bit more interesting, and again, I love Lupita, so really great movie. I think it's also one of those movies where you don't have to see the original movies to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like I told my mom about it, because my mom also likes Lupita. And I was like, you could watch this and never watch any of the other movies and still enjoy it. Another movie that is also the third installment of a series is Maxine. So this is the third installment of a series, and this is also A24. The first movie was called X, the second movie was called Pearl, and then this one is called Maxine. Without explaining like way too much, basically X was this group of people that go to this farm to film adult films. And stuff ensues, and a bunch of them get killed and such. And then Maxine is one of the girls who was in the movie filming the adult films. And then Pearl is the flashback of the old woman. So there's a old couple that they're staying, like the farm is owned by this old couple, and the lady's name is Pearl. So Pearl is like the backstory of the old woman from the first movie. And then Pearl is played by the same actress who plays Maxine. And then Maxine is the third installment, and this is set a couple of years after the events of X. And so Maxine is an established adult film star, but she's trying to get into regular acting. And so she's gets hired to be in this like horror film, and then weird stuff happens and all of it. So I know it's kind of a long backstory, but I really liked this movie. I think my favorite of the three was probably the first one, just because it
Yeah.
was very like different than anything I've ever seen before. But I really liked this movie. Mia Goth is the actress. I just remembered her name. But I think Mia Goth is a really fantastic actress. I know I keep
Yeah.
saying that. That's like the line I keep saying. They're a fantastic actress. But these people are. But Mia Goth was really good. I liked this movie a lot. I think X, the first movie, was the best one out of the three, but I thought Maxine was very, very good.
It was good too. I mean, kind of similar to what I said about A Quiet Place. There was just, I think there was more going on in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
In X, where Maxine more so follows her and a couple other characters. There's like a little bit of intrigue, and then wraps up pretty neatly at the end. You do have to know the backstory, I think, to understand
Yeah,
the climax and the conflict in the end.
you definitely have to
Maxine,
watch
yeah,
X. If you
yeah.
didn't watch Pearl, like you could watch Pearl by itself and never watch any of the other movies and like enjoy
Mhm.
it, but you definitely have to watch X before you watch Maxine,
Yeah.
because it is
So
a direct sequel.
yeah, and again, that ties directly into the conflict and the climax of the
Mm-hmm.
movie. But otherwise, it was fun. It was a lot of
Yeah,
good for her moments.
yeah, a definitely good like
So
feminist, like
yeah,
yeah, good for her. The next one was Twisters, which is a I don't really think it's a remake. I don't really think it's a sequel. It's just sort of similar to the original movie Twister, which
new
is a
Twister,
fantastic movie. I love Twister. Twisters
classic.
was good. Wasn't my favorite movie.
It
It's a
wasn't.
good disaster movie. It's not great. It's not terrible. I thought it was like fine.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I went in like diehard Twister fan.
Yeah, I know you
Grew up with
love
that.
that
Grew
movie.
up
I
with
like
that
that movie a
movie.
lot,
Yeah,
but
like I went into Twisters like fully expecting to just be ass. No, it was actually pretty
it was a
good.
good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, there were definitely kind of, you know,
That would never happen. This is so far
yeah,
fetched moments.
yeah. That, and I was gonna say they were kind of pulling the nostalgia bandwagon a
They
little
were.
bit. There
They
was a
were.
lot of parallels between the original characters. I mean, none of them were even really directly related. They really didn't, apart from that they were using the similar Dorothy technology. They weren't
Yeah.
really reaching back to the original character. So no, it wasn't a direct sequel or
It
anything
wasn't
like
trying to
that.
erase the original movie.
No, but it was, very similar. There's two teams. There's
The corporate kind of people and the kind of
the kind of
ragtag.
ragtag folks. Then you
Yeah.
got the middle person who's the audience stand-in. Our main character we're following, and she had some trauma from tornadoes back in the day, which is why she's
The
interested
opening
in
scene, like all her friends like get sucked up into a twister,
yeah.
and
So
she's
very
traumatized.
very reminiscent, very nostalgic of the first one, but again, not poorly made. It was fun, so I think
Yeah.
worth a watch.
It was fine. The next one was Deadpool and Wolverine. I love Deadpool. I know some people like hate Deadpool so much. Deadpool is one of my favorite characters in Marvel. And so I was obviously super excited for Deadpool and Wolverine to come out. I saw this twice. I saw it in the theater and then we watched it together. I don't want to like spoil the movie, but like as a trilogy, I think it was fantastic. I liked it a bit more than the second one. I will say that now it's owned by Disney and they make a lot of meta like breaking the fourth wall, like meta references to Disney and to Marvel that I thought was funny. But I will say now that this is owned by Disney, it was definitely not as raunchy. They swore just as much. They made a lot of inappropriate jokes and things, but I think the raunchiness factor and like the sex joke factors are very much watered down in this film.
Yeah.
So if you like Deadpool just for the fact that he says and does things that are like ridiculous and super over the top inappropriate, this movie is not really going to like tickle that for you. But I will say it is a great movie. It still feels like the original Deadpool movies. There's still plenty of inappropriate jokes and swearing and things like that that make it the Deadpool, esque vibe of the movies and stuff, but it was definitely like watered down in a sense. But I loved how they tied Wolverine into it because they tie a lot of the different universes and the multiverses into it. He gets picked up by like the TVA, which is from the Loki series. They have a lot of callbacks to other Marvel movies and Marvel characters that we have seen before, and they're played by the same actors. But then there's some new Marvel characters who are like, in the comics, but we haven't seen them on screen before that they added. And it's very much directly tied into the other movies. And I liked that. I think they tied it in very well. And there's a lot of hints that Deadpool will be in some of the other Marvel movies. I'm hoping he'll be in the other Avengers movies. I really liked it. I thought the plot was cool. I liked the Wolverine aspect. I don't think it was just like, let's put Wolverine in here just to get a big ticket item character. It made sense. I love Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I know some people like hate Ryan Reynolds and they hate Deadpool and they like don't like. I know someone who like just doesn't like Ryan Reynolds, so they don't watch these movies at all. But I love Deadpool. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did, but I do think it was like watered down a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely was watered down, but still, there's plenty of ridiculous moments.
Yeah,
They definitely still lean into that.
just as gory. Like
Yeah,
the opening scene is like him just murdering all these people. Loved it. One of my favorites.
yeah, a lot of fun.
The next one. This is another M Night Shyamalan movie called Trap. Do you want to talk about this? Because I just
Yeah,
blabbed for like 5 minutes.
yeah. Another one I said before. I'll say it again. I mean, Shyamalan's back, baby, but really fantastic. Long story short, you're following this dad and his daughter. They're going to see this pop singer concert. There's all this security going around. The dad's kind of like looking at it. Should I reveal the
Yeah, sure.
plot? Okay. Spoiler alert: the dad is a serial killer, and the security is in place because they got a tip that he's going to be at the concert, but they don't know what he looks like. And so basically, it follows him trying to navigate, helping his daughter have a good time, and also evade the security. And just the lengths he goes to are, I mean, crazy smart. You're like, damn it, because you want him to get caught.
No,
And
we won't ruin the ending or anything, but
no, again,
yeah.
typical Shyamalan. There's a couple twists at the end. Yeah, it's
It was good.
yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Very crazy.
Most of the movie took place in the stadium where the
Mhm.
concert goes on, but then they
Eventually make it out,
they make
and
it out, and there's a few other settings, but the majority of the movie takes place in the concert venue. And then the pop singer is actually played by M Night Shyamalan's daughter, and I think
mhm,
that was like her first movie. So I thought that was really cool. And then M
yeah,
Night Shyamalan also has a cameo in the movie. He has cameos in a lot of the movies. I don't remember if he was in Watchers. I don't think he was,
no, I don't
but
remember.
he has like a he plays like the cousin or manager or something of the pop singer. But I like that
Mhm.
he used his daughter for the singer, and she's actually she plays like a pretty big role in the film. So I thought she was a really good actress. So I hope she goes on to have a good career. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was cool. I liked Watchers a little bit better, but this
Yeah,
one was a cool movie because normally when you watch these M Night Shyamalan movies, there's like a supernatural element to them. But this was not that. It was just more of like this man trying to evade the cops kind of thing. But it was really good.
it was. Yeah,
It was very
very,
good.
very dicey. Very kind of waiting to see what this guy was going to do next.
Yeah.
How they were going to catch him, if they were going to catch him.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it
It's a
was
cool
very cool.
movie. I
Yeah.
liked it a lot. Next one was Cuckoo. This one stars Hunter Schafer, who's also on Euphoria. She plays Jules on Euphoria. Um, and this movie, her and her family, well, I guess it's her dad and her stepmother and her stepsister moved to, is it Germany?
Yeah.
They moved to Germany because her dad and her stepmom are that they bought like a property there and they're gonna own like another they're gonna open up another hotel So they're staying like on the near the property of this hotel, and she ends up getting a Hunter Schafer's character ends up getting a job like as like a front desk clerk at the hotel, and the guy who owns the hotel is like kind of creepy as hell. And I don't want to give away too much of this movie because I didn't know really anything about this movie going into it. I just knew it was like a really good film, and I really love Hunter Schafer, so I don't want to ruin much about this movie because I don't think it got much traction. I heard about it like from TikTok, which the day we are filming this, TikTok has been banned.
Rip.
So rip TikTok. So hopefully by the time we film our next podcast, we'll have TikTok back. But I heard about this movie from TikTok, and yeah, I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but it's more of a psychological thriller, not too scary, but more
Yeah.
of a psychological thriller. There were a couple of scenes where I was like, oh my god, oh, what is that? Because there's kind of like creature kind of in it, creature
Yeah.
adjacent in it. But yeah, without giving away too much of the movie, I really liked it. If you like psychological thrillers, this was definitely a film that you should see. I think Hunter Schafer is a great actress. I really liked her in this. And the other guy that was like the hotel owner, that actor, I've seen him in some other things before, but he was really good. He played like a perfect creepy dude, and it was just a good film. We didn't really know much going into it, and I would definitely recommend not really looking up too much about it and just go into it and watch it because it was definitely a really good watch.
Yeah, very, very unique
Mhm.
premise, I thought, which
Yeah,
I
I did
appreciated.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one was Alien Romulus. I'll let you talk about this because I loved this movie, but you love the Alien
Yeah,
franchise.
again, I mean, the OG Alien is one of my favorite movies of all time. So this one was very fun. Again, kind of what I said before about Twister is very nostalgic at times. I thought maybe a little nostalgic baity, but that's aside. But
But it
very,
also directly ties into the original film.
yes,
So
very
the
good.
nostalgic stuff was like strategic,
Hmm.
but I do think some of it was a little
A little
baity.
bit, yeah.
But in
Um,
general, it was like it directly ties into the original film.
yeah, like some of the shots were almost like one for one,
They
like with
were,
the
yeah.
OG Sigourney Weaver shots, which were cool and appreciated, but also kind of like, come on. But very good return to form.
Hmm.
Um, with the horror aspect and like the weird gritty stuff. I mean, they're starting out on the planet they're on. I guess we've spoiled a handful of movies, so I'll talk about most of the stuff in here. They're trying to escape this mining planet and go get one of the big mining ships that was like located in orbit and it was abandoned and it had all the ore and stuff and they wanted to get the pods on it so they could go to this other planet, convoluted, whatever. But just
They're escaping their planet because their planet's like shit, and they're
yeah,
like, "Oh, if we can like hijack into this ship, we can like use their pods or whatever and go and travel to the other planet that's like better. It's like kind of like an oasis planet."
yeah. And so yeah, just like how gritty everything is and kind of like it's that weird like used future kind of a sense where it's futuristic but everything's just like dirty and dingy and kind of shitty. It's not like the shiny fancy stuff. Then eventually they get to the big ship and some of the pods don't work and like there's signs of disaster and obviously signs of the alien and the face huggers and all that. Then oh my god, the droid guy, or his name was, god damn it,
David?
David, yes. Jesus Christ.
Oh
The
wait,
synthetics. Yeah.
are they all named David? Because I thought David was Michael Fassbender from Prometheus. His character was David.
It was too, yeah.
They're all David?
I think so. I think that, yeah.
Okay, we'll just call him David.
Anyway, yeah,
Anyway,
the
it's
synthetics.
the original synthetic from the first movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're plugging him in and, finding out
He's
all
shady
this
as
seedy
fuck.
shit. Yeah, then one of their friends who they're trying to escape to the planet with, he's a synthetic. He's following the main character, the girl, around. And like David's trying to kind of like get into his head and then like they take the chip and they put it into him and there's all sorts of shady shit going on. Long story short, you find that David, the busted up synth, is trying to basically harvest and keep healthy the face huggers and grow a colony of aliens. And
Yeah, the typical shady shit that the synthetics are like doing.
yeah,
Yeah. And this is like the original ship from like the first movie too.
Nostromo, not Sevastopol's from the game, I think. Anyway,
I don't know.
yeah.
But yeah, it's the original ship that they were on in the first movie and stuff. But I really liked it. Some of the other Alien newer films were like okay, but I really liked this movie. It was just fun, and I feel like you don't really even have to see the other Alien movies to enjoy it. And it was just really well done. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's like if you watch the original ones and you don't even really need to watch the prequels up to it. It's like kind of like if and it's like then yeah, it is nostalgic and stuff like that. But
You get a
it
little
is a
bit
good
more of the
standalone
backstory and
movie.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie. Will and Harper, you watched this movie. You watched this movie over break when we visited your
Yeah,
mom, and I went upstairs because I was exhausted. So I did not
yeah.
get a chance to see this movie. So I'll let you take it away.
It's good. It's not like it's a movie following the
It's a
road trip
documentary.
taken. Yeah, it's like a movie documentary following Will Ferrell and his friend Harper, who is an older woman who is a trans woman. She transitioned later in life, and they're basically kind of like Harper's like, I'm older, but I have yet to experience any of my old haunts as me now, as me Harper the woman. So Will Ferrell's like, let's go on a road trip and take you to all your old haunts, and so they do so, and it's really really heartwarming, really really well done, very respectful, navigating the challenges of being a trans person in 21st century America, as sad as that is to say. It's challenging, but also navigating, I mean, they go across some wild places in middle America, and you think more kind of open spaces would be blue states, the coastlines and things like that. So they navigate those challenges. They also kind of navigate the challenges of, I mean, they're in a bar in the middle of nowhere, and Will Ferrell walks in, and so it's kind of like, okay, here's this friend dealing with these challenges, and then here's this friend dealing with the celebrity, which, I mean, also he's a white cis man celebrity. He's like the pinnacle of privilege, basically, kind of
Yeah.
contrasting with his friend Harper. So they're navigating that. And then there's some really cute moments where they brought in Harper's kids. And, they were, of course,
Oh.
accepting they were super cute. Old like actors and folks from SNL
Yeah, because
were
wasn't
brought in.
Harper a writer on SNL?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were like at dinner over drinks or something. A bunch of folks from SNL came on, we're talking and stuff like that. It was very very cool, very well done, very respectful, and also it was very poignant. And I think it brought in some realism because there was a scene where they went to a restaurant. Will Ferrell's up on this table. He's doing this eating challenge, and it's very publicized, basically. And Harper is sitting across from him, and then they kind of show on on the screen of the documentary, like the social media backlash, for lack of better
Mm,
terms, just people saying horrific shit about Harper, and then Will Ferrell seeing that and being like, oh my god, this is what you
yeah.
go through. So
I definitely want to watch it.
yeah,
But I'm glad you enjoyed
very
it.
poignant, very well done.
The next one is Hold Your Breath. This was on Hulu and it stars Sarah Paulson, who you would probably know from American Horror Story. Great actress, love her. She can do no wrong in my eyes. This takes place during the Dust Bowl in, was it like Oklahoma or something?
Like the whole
The
Midwest and
Midwest Dust Bowl in
Southeast,
the 40s, 30s?
around the Depression era. Yeah, I
Great
can't remember
Depression
exactly.
time. And the Dust Bowl was basically, Malik was explaining this to me, but the Dust Bowl was basically back when, before like modern farming techniques, that basically they were like over farming their land, and so a bunch of dust accumulated and the dirt couldn't like re-moisturize, and so when the storms came, the dust basically just like, basically it was like a dust tornado, right? It's like the winds picked up all the dust and you couldn't,
Yeah, like
you, yeah,
constant dust storms and drought, and the land
awful,
was
not awfulness.
untenable. Yeah, just it's horrific to think that that actually
Yeah.
happened.
So it takes place during that era, and Sarah Paulson, she has she have two or three daughters. I think she has two daughters. Well, okay, so the one daughter
The one, yeah,
dies in the Dust Bowl, and then she has two other daughters, and basically her husband like goes out on some mission
Philly to
to he basically goes out on some mission to like, I don't know exactly why, but she's left there in the town, and the little girls read this book, and there's like this,
the gray
the
man.
gray man is this man who comes in through the, he's basically like a dust entity, and they're like scared of this gray man. They think like he's real or whatever, and then weird stuff starts happening. And I don't want to spoil it because it was a good movie. But basically, you're kind of watching this movie and you're thinking, okay, either Sarah Paulson's character is batshit crazy, or there's an actual supernatural entity that is doing things in her house. And I won't spoil which thing is the truth, but it's a really good movie. There's some, it's more of a serious film. It's not funny
Yeah,
at all, but it's a really good film. But yeah, you kind of, as the audience, you're going through it thinking, okay, is there something actually supernatural going on here, or is she just freaking crazy, and is she just going nuts because she's stuck in this house and this town and all of her crops are like destroyed? I really liked it. I know, I don't know if we're selling it very I don't know if I'm
yeah,
selling it very well. But it's a really, I liked it. It was a good movie.
yeah. It's very gripping.
Yeah, more
Very,
serious.
yeah, serious. Kind
It's
of a
good.
mystery. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good mystery movie.
Yeah.
Sarah Paulson is awesome.
Yeah.
It's What's Inside. We actually watched this movie last night. Some of these movies we have watched since the new year, but we wanted to include them. So we did watch this movie last night. This was probably one of my favorite movies of the year. I don't think it's an A24 movie, but it was very like similar to other A24 movies. Basically, it's this group of friends who haven't seen each other in a while. They were college friends. They meet at this mansion, and that's like the mansion of one of the characters. And because the one character is getting married, and so they all meet for like a party the night before the guy gets married, and he had invited them all back when they were in college, and he didn't think they were all going to show up and stuff, and it's like a reunion. And then the one character who shows up is a guy that they accidentally all got expelled while they were in college, and I won't give away the whole like plot of it because it is, it's kind of a spoiler. But basically, this one character shows up at the party. They didn't think he was going to show up at all, but they all ended up getting him expelled back when they were in college from something that happened at like a party. And the guy has this suitcase with these like neurotransmitters that he can put on them. And basically, he puts the neurotransmitters on their heads, flicks these switches, and they all basically switch bodies. Like their consciousnesses get switched into the bodies of the other people. And so they end up playing these games where they have to guess like who's in whose body and stuff. And they do it a couple of times, and then a big twist of the movie happens, and then craziness ensues. So I don't want to give it away, because there's many twists in this movie.
Yeah.
But it was really cool because the different actors have to act like the different characters. So you see like one person and they're playing, one character, but then when they switch the consciousness with the other person, they're acting like that other character. So I think it was a cool thing to see the different actors playing kind of different roles in a
It was cool.
sense. And they switch like a few times, so you get to see that sort of change happen. The plot, just a really cool plot. It kind
Very
of
unique.
reminded me of like Talk to Me, that movie where they like have the demon hand
Yeah.
and they like get possessed or whatever. Like it kind of reminded me of that movie a little bit, but it's not a scary movie. It's not a horror film at all. Kind of a comedy, kind of, I don't really know what genre. It's not horror. It's not psychological thriller. I don't know, maybe sci-fi kind of. It's a little bit, but not really. I don't really know what genre it would be in. But even even on Netflix, I think it's a Netflix movie. It said it was genre bending. So
Yeah.
I'm not really unsure what it would be categorized as, but it was a really, really good movie. It's a little spicy. There's a few
Yeah.
explicit scenes in there. So if you're under the age, I would not watch that movie. But nothing like gratuitous or anything. But it's like makes sense with the plot of the movie why they have the spicy scenes in there. But one of my favorite movies, and yeah, again, I don't want to like spoil it too much. Just a really cool plot. The ending, the twist at the end, really, really good. It was also a good sort of like feminine energy movie as well, which I appreciated. So
Yeah, good revenge plot, and also another one that was really artistically shot, and not without reason too, because there's a part at the beginning where the one character showing off a drawing, and she's like, "Oh, if you look at it through this color lens, you see this, and if you look at it through that color lens, you see that." And then throughout the movie, they kind of reveal with
mimic that.
different lighting who's in whose body, and depending on how the viewer is supposed to see them. It was actually really interesting.
Yeah, they kind of like mimic her artwork. It's really cool. It's a really, really good movie.
Yeah.
The next one is The Platform 2. Malik did not see this movie, so I won't talk much about it. It's the sequel to The Platform, which is a Netflix movie. It's a Spanish movie. So this was the prequel. And yeah, because you haven't seen it, I won't go too much of it. But basically, the plot of this movie, it's a vertical prison where the food descends from the top, and so the people who are on the top floor get more food than the people who are on the bottom floor. And so this is the sequel to that movie. And I don't want to spoil too much because there's kind of a twist in it, and because you haven't seen it, I won't go into it too much. But it's a good movie. It kind of it's a good film. These movies are very strange, and it's very much it's a commentary on like the class system, because the people at the top get more resources than the people at the bottom, and then by the time you get to the bottom floor, there's no food left. And then every like month or every like 2 weeks, I think it's every like 2 weeks, the people switch floors. So like one point you could be at the top floor and have a bunch of food, and then the next week you're at the bottom and you have no food. So really cool like take on like the commentary on like classism and capitalism and stuff. This one I think I liked this one. I don't know if I liked this one more than the first one. I kind of like this one a little bit more than the first one, but I that might have been because the main character was a woman in this one. The first movie, the main character was a dude, so maybe that was a factor. But I think this one had a little bit more action to it, and then also going into that you have a little bit more insight into like the way the prison works in this movie, whereas the first one you kind of like figure it out as the plot goes on. But I liked it. Definitely, you have to watch the first movie to kind of understand everything, but you could watch it by itself. We're almost done with our list. The next one is Smile 2. So this is the sequel to Smile, which is God, it's kind of complicated. Basically, there's this entity that like possesses people, and you get possessed by the entity when you see someone who's already possessed by it die. So say I'm possessed by this entity, Malik sees me, and then I kill myself in front of him, and then now the entity is now attached to him. So basically, this movie follows a pop star, and she is making a big comeback after she has been out of the public eye for a while because she was in a car accident where her boyfriend died. So she has all this trauma from seeing her boyfriend dead, and then she was like also on drugs. So she has a lot of trauma, and basically, the Smile entity kind of attaches onto people who have a lot of like trauma and stuff. So the movies are sort of a commentary on like trauma and how I view this. And I don't know if this has been stated somewhere, but this is how I view it, that the smile, because when you die, when you're about to kill yourself in front of someone, you like have this creepy smile, and
Mhm.
all of like and the demon kind of makes you see people in your life have the creepy smile too. So in my mind, the smile is sort of the outward, you're facing the world smiling, but on the inside you're being sort of tormented. And so that's sort of a in my mind that's sort of a metaphor for like depression. So that's kind of how I viewed the movies, and I'm sure other people have that same take. But I enjoyed this one because I liked that it was following a pop star. You got to kind of see the behind the scenes of like how she is getting ready for the concert, and I thought it was interesting that she was like a public figure. I thought the actress was really good. This is the same actress who played Jasmine in the live action Aladdin movie. I guess I can't remember her name, but she was really good. I kind of liked it more than the original movie. And then the ending is very much so setting up for a sequel or a
Yeah.
third installment, which they've already announced that there will be a third installment. And without spoiling too much, the ending is, oh my God, what's going to happen in the next movie? But there's also a lot of like there's also other characters in both of the movies that were trying to sort of stop the demon, and they had like theories on how they could like capture the demon and stuff. So I'm hoping like the next one might touch into that a little bit more. But I really liked it, and I kind of liked it a little bit more than the original.
Mhm. Again, just more going on. And
Yeah.
interesting following a pop star. I feel like you don't see a whole lot in like horror movies.
Yeah. Okay, we got four more movies to go through. Next one is Red One. We watched this on Christmas time, and
Yeah.
this stars Chris Evans and The Rock. And basically, this takes place in modern times, but there's basically this like bureau of people who protect like magical creatures. And so Santa Claus, The Rock plays a character who lives in like the Santa Claus North Pole area, and he's in charge. He's basically like Santa's bodyguard. And so Santa ends up getting kidnapped, and then Chris Evans's character unknowingly helped get Santa kidnapped. And so based on like, they search like the people who work at the North Pole and the people who work for this like division or whatever figure out that Chris Evans accidentally like helped Santa Claus get like kidnapped, so they enlist his help to find him and get him back because he's like a hacker or whatever.
Yeah.
And then The Rock was one of Santa's bodyguards, so he feels like responsible and he feels bad that Santa was kidnapped. And then I don't want to give away a lot of it, but there's lots of different mythological creatures, like Krampus is in it, and it's a cool story. I think it was a cool take on like Santa. Santa's a little bit more buff. He's not like fat or anything. And then the different characters were interesting. I liked that they had Krampus in there. It was just very clever. It was a good movie. It wasn't cringy or anything. And I love The Rock and I love Chris Evans, so I'll watch anything that they're in. But I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was actually surprisingly good.
Mm-hmm.
Which for Christmas movies you assume they're going to be the same old formula, but no, it was really well done. Really, like you said, clever. Like kind of like the different take, the fresh take on technologies and the characters, and there's some cool like characters and creatures from old lore too, even beyond Krampus. And then Oh, it's like I wouldn't say it's a kids movie either because some of the
No,
jokes and humor
no.
was definitely like say like teenager level. So
Yeah, it was definitely teens to adult
yeah,
marketed, so it was not like a kids Christmas movie, but it
yeah,
wasn't like inappropriate or anything.
no, but yeah, I was like, okay, this is probably not like definitely not a little kids movie.
No. But I think if you're young enough, the stuff will just go over your
Oh
head.
yeah, but again, like not saying that as a diss, but like it was
Yeah.
well done, and again, kind of like
Yeah.
a fresh take, like a
Mhm.
Christmas movie that's not marketed for like 5-year-olds. Whoa,
Yeah.
like,
It was cool. I liked
yeah,
it a lot. The next one is Gladiator 2. Now, we went and saw this in the theater, mostly because we love Pedro Pascal, and I wanted to see this in the theater. And so I had seen the original Gladiator movie when I was a kid, and Malik had never seen it before. So we're like, let's watch it.
I've seen
The
the memes.
yeah, we've seen the memes before. The only version of the film we could find for free was the director's cut. So the director's cut was very long. A lot of the scenes were like extended. So we personally, our Gladiator experience was a little long, and we thought the film was a little boring. However, I think if we found the regular cut of the movie, I think we would have liked it a little bit more. But it was a little slow, but I don't know if that was just because it was the director's cut and they added things to it, or if the actual movie is slow. Regardless, it's still a good movie, very classic. So we were like,
Mhm.
oh, so we wanted to go see the movie, so we went and saw it in the theater. I liked this a million times more than the first movie. There was lots of action in it.
Yeah,
Pedro Pascal is obviously fantastic. Paul Mescal as Hano slash Lucius. He plays the little boy who was in the original Gladiator movie. So Connie Nielsen's character was the sister of like the gladiator of the she played the sister of Joaquin Phoenix's character who was like the emperor or whatever, and so she has a son, and so that little boy is who Paul Mescal plays, and so he basically like had run off and had to live a life as not really being royalty anymore because of the his like uncle being killed or whatever. And so he grew up kind of like simply, and then he goes to war, and Pedro Pascal's character ends up like killing all the people in his like town, and kidnaps all of them, and then he ends up becoming sold as a slave and becomes a gladiator or whatever. And so the whole movie he's like, I need to get revenge on General Acacius because he killed my whole family and he killed all the people and he kidnapped my whole like all my people. And
yeah,
so he's like vengeful, okay, of this. And then Connie Nielsen's character Lucilla is married to Pedro Pascal's character, and so it's like that weird dynamic of like, oh, my mom is married to the guy that like killed my whole family. Anyway,
yeah.
going way too into detail of this movie. And then the emperors are
The best part.
the best part of the whole movie. The emperors are played by Joseph Quinn and Fred Heckinger, and they're playing real emperors. So there were really emperors named Gaeta and Caracalla, and they were brothers. I think in the movie they say they're twins, but I'm pretty sure in real life they were just brothers. I don't think they were twins in real life, but they were real emperors in real life, and they were horrible emperors. They did not work well together, and in real life they would only speak to each other if their mother was present. But in the movie, like obviously that's not like a thing. But they just are awful emperors. They just people don't like them. Their rule in real life was disaster, and so that is very much prevalent in the movie. So without going into too much, because we've already talked about this like way too much, and I could just do a whole podcast on this movie because I really loved this movie. I actually really liked this movie. It was really fantastic. The acting was so good. The emperors were the best part of the movie. The outfits that they're wearing, like I literally leaned over to Malik and was like, the drip
Yeah,
on these emperors. Their costumes were so fantastic. I think the gladiator scenes were filmed really well. I think everybody did a fantastic job in this movie. I think Fred Heckinger was the best actor in this movie as playing Emperor Caracalla because his character's kind of like nuts so cuckoo because he's got like a disease that makes him crazy. And just the outfits on these people were like fantastic. Pedro Pascal obviously was great. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I want to see it again,
yeah. We should
but it's
whatever.
not free. It's not free
When
anymore.
it's free, yeah, I could echo everything you said. But yeah, the Emperor's definitely the best part. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
those actors did a phenomenal job. You already said about Fred Heckinger, but Joseph Quinn just like playing the kind of like the mad emperor, and like there were some scenes where like in his
He was
eyes,
unhinged as
yeah,
fuck.
like you could just see it. It was like Jesus, he's doing a
Yeah,
good job.
he was so good.
Yeah,
He's gonna be in the new Fantastic Four film. He's going to be playing Johnny Storm in the new Fantastic Four film, and Pedro Pascal is going to play Reed Richards. So they've already been working together for quite a while, and I'm glad. I thought they did a good job in the scenes they were in together, so I'm excited to see how they work together in Fantastic Four as well. Okay, we have two more movies. The next one is Wicked. I could also do an entire podcast just on Wicked because this is my favorite musical of all time. So I have been looking forward to them making a movie of Wicked for years, probably 15, 16 years. I have been waiting for them to make a movie. And without going into too much, this blew my expectations out of the water. When they announced they were going to make a movie, I was nervous because I'm like, you got to cast the right people. You got to do the musical justice. I've seen the musical 3 times. You got to do this justice. You've got to do the costumes right. You got to do everything right, the acting, the songs. Everything has to be perfect. And I think Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande as Elphaba and Glinda were perfect. I think everybody was perfectly cast in this movie. The costumes, the singing, cinematography, sets, everything about this movie, A plus plus plus, blew me out of the water. I will be very upset if Cynthia and Ariana don't at least get nominated for Oscars. I think they were both nominated for Golden Globes, but I will be very upset if they don't get nominated at least for an Oscar. I hope the movie wins an Oscar. It did win a Golden Globe. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it was such a good adaptation of the musical. It was only the first part of the musical, so if you're going to go into this movie thinking you're going to see the whole thing and you've never seen Wicked before, no, you're going to have to wait until November of this year to see the last half of it. Obviously, I've seen the musical before, so I know what happens. But if you don't know anything about this, like, you're either look up what happens or just wait. But it was so fantastic. And Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, who played the original Glinda and Elphaba, made cameos in the movie, and the cameos were perfect. Yeah, I could just blab on and on and on about this movie, but it was fantastic. It was probably in my top 3 for the year. Our last movie, last but not least, is Night Bitch, which stars. Stop.
Spider of the Day, bitch.
That's
Sorry. That's not.
That's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We love Always Sunny.
Yeah.
So Night Bitch stars Amy Adams, and she plays a woman who has a 2-year-old son. And so she used to be an artist, and now she is a stay-at-home mother. And in the beginning of the movie, she's very much disgruntled by the fact that she's a mother. And her husband is out. Her husband goes on business trips a lot, so he's not really home. And this is all like in the trailer. So she basically starts like transforming into like a dog. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's kind of like a metaphor. Like, the movie is kind of like a metaphor for like motherhood and transforming and sort of finding yourself. And I don't want to give away a lot of it because I knew about it from like the trailer, because the trailer, she's like, oh, I hate being a mother and now I'm turning into a dog and all that stuff. And it sounds really weird because it is weird, but a lot of it is like metaphorical and commentary on just like motherhood and womanhood in general, like the transformation you go through when you become a mother. And yeah, without giving away too much of the movie, because I do think it was a very good movie. I love Amy Adams, and I'm glad to see her in more films. I feel like she was in a ton of movies, and then I feel like I haven't seen her in a while. So I thought she did a fantastic job in the movie. And it was just a very interesting take on like motherhood and navigating parenting. But it was very good. It was funny. She did a really good job. There's a lot of weird moments in it, but there's a lot of funny moments. And yeah, it's just kind of a commentary on motherhood and like finding yourself after like birth, and kind of like a rebirth that like women go through after they have children. Weird movie. We like weird movies. It's sort of like I don't know how to describe it. It's an odd film. So if you're not really into like odd artsy movies, like, you might not get it. And you might think this is just a stupid movie, but like, we like those kind of movies, and I totally got like what they were trying to say in the movie. But if you're not into that kind of stuff, I could see you not enjoying it, but I really liked it.
Yeah, it was a very different way of just storytelling, I think. And even the funny and kind of weird moments were to make a point to the greater story. I mean, there was nothing really that was kind of like out of left field. It was all furthering the plot and kind of the themes.
Yeah, I agree. So, top 3 favorite movies. For me, Wicked was my favorite. I think Gladiator 2 was up there in my favorites. And then I loved What's Inside. I loved that movie. And I know we said top three, but I'm gonna give one more, and I'm gonna say Deadpool and Wolverine. So those are my favorite top four movies. What about you?
I had my favorites were, I think my favorite would have to be Late Night with the Devil, because
It was a really good
that was
movie.
just so
Yeah.
cool and so different. Second, Spaceman, and then The Watchers, Abigail,
Oh,
and
Abigail was great.
yeah, and then Alien Romulus.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me pick
Just
a
have
fifth.
yeah, just having Alien down there lower, just because it's a franchise that is already around, and Abigail was a new standalone thing.
I think my
Otherwise, I liked them all very
Yeah.
much.
I think my fifth was probably a Quiet Place Day One. So you like more of the underground movies,
Like weird
and now
esoteric.
all my favorites are like the blockbuster ones. But that doesn't mean I didn't. I still all the ones that you said I liked a lot.
Oh yeah, the ones that I didn't include, I
Yeah.
still enjoy them, but like ones that like
Yeah.
I would eagerly watch again, and pick up things that I missed the first time around, which I love movies like that. Where it's like every
Yeah.
time you watch them, it's like, oh shit, I didn't notice that.
So those were our movies that we watched in 2024, or movies that were released in 2024 that we watched. Yeah, we are very happy to be back on the pod,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be hopefully releasing episodes more frequently, more consistently, because now we have this beautiful background and we have microphones. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope this inspired you to watch some of these movies. Hope it gave you some insight that you didn't know if you had seen these movies. And like always, stay safe, stay classy, and we'll chat again with you soon. Bye bye.
See ya.